Introducing Optus Loop, a business phone system like no other, using cloud-based technology for call handling, call queuing, and caller self-direction. Optus Loop is built to scale as your business grows. Search Optus Loop.
Welcome back to Money News right around Australia. One issue, think about this, if you're running, say, I don't know, a winery, and you've got wine that you're selling at the cellar door, but you're also selling to, I don't know, big supermarkets or big liquor outlets. Well, of course, what happens in that case is if they discover that you are selling the wine cheaper at the cellar door than what they can sell it as the big merchants, they're not going to be very happy with you. In fact, in many cases, they have actually threatened and carried out not to buy any more wine from that winery. Now sit there and start to think that you are a travel agent or, I don't know, a hotel or some sort of accommodation provider. So what happens is that the market right now, in this particular case, is dominated by two key players. One of them is Expedia. The other one is Booking.com. Don't know if you've ever used them. I have. Now, they right now, in terms of bookings, control 80% of the market, it's suggested. There's been ACCC investigations into the way in which this works. And what happened was ultimately they, like, I don't know, big hotels or, sort of big liquor outlets, had said to accommodation providers, hotels, small sort of businesses and so forth, if you sell cheaper than we do, we won't buy from you. We won't buy the beds anymore. So the ACCC got involved, 2016, did a deal with them to amend the ability for small hotels and accommodation providers to actually cut deals with potential customers. In other words, you ring up and you say, I've seen this quoted, can you do a better price? Yep, I can. Come on in. And otherwise, if people walk in and say, what's your best rate? Well, we got a cheap rate today, it's this. So what's happened since then, the ACCC has confirmed it was investigating whether it should take actions to address issues within the online travel booking industry. Today, however, the Labor Party has come out and indicated that it will give greater control over pricing back to businesses under a Labor government if elected. It's kind of interesting to see how this all plays out. Now, bear in mind that Expedia, for example, owns Expedia, it owns Hotels.com, Trivago, What If, and Stays.com.au. So Expedia owns most of those online brand names that you do know. Now, one person who's been watching all of this, no doubt, with much interest is the Chief Executive of the Accommodation Association of Australia, Richard Munro, who's on the line. Many thanks for your time, Richard.
Oh, Ross, pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Okay, I've tried to sum it up for people to explain the history and the background of some of this, but from an accommodation provider's point of view, is what the Labor Party is proposing a reasonable thing, or are the ACCC's powers strong enough to allow, the flexibility of pricing to be able to undercut Expedia or Booking.com?
Oh, Ross, it's a good question. You set that up really well with the example of the winery. In fact, I think a bit like with our moteliers and hoteliers are like dairy farmers with milk. All they're trying to do is get their product to market, but they're being dictated to by these big duopolies offshore. But if we were dairy farmers in Australia, we'd be dictated to by Woolworths and Coles. But these guys are actually saying offshore, you can't put a price out in the market better than us, which is almost a restriction on trade. And what the Labor Party, to your question, I think this policy goes a long way to what we want as a business, as an industry. And we've been waiting for the ACCC to move on this, and they've been running an active investigation. But, they seem to work at a very slow pace. So, this policy setting that the Labor Party's come out with is music to our ears, because finally, we can get a price to the market better than what an agent who's commanding up to 30% commission can give you. Because at the end of the day, if you think about it, if they're selling something and they have to take 30% out that goes offshore, the poor old hotelier is only getting 70% net. So, all that money disappears, and at the end of the day, we can't give a cheaper rate to the consumer. Okay, so
let's work this out right now. Let's say, for example, we've got Expedia or Booking.com quoting a hotel price at $100 a night. Now, of that, they basically keep 30 and give 70 back to the hotelier. Now, if that same hotelier can sell that same room for, let's call it $85 a night. In other words, we split the difference. The consumer gets a better deal, so they get $15 off the price. The hotelier gets a better deal. They get $15 extra as compared with what they previously would have. And the only people missing out here are Booking.com and Expedia. But what incentive would those big agents then have to give that particular hotel any business in the future?
Oh, probably not a lot, but, you think about it. What they were set up to do was really the international market. But what it turned out, up to nearly 85% of the market is domestic. So what they're doing is getting Australian consumers buying Australian products, and they're taking a clip of the ticket along the way, but not doing much except a bit of technology. So essentially, if they play just in the international space, I think hoteliers would play nicely with them. But at the moment, we need to recalibrate the relationship and remember and remind them that we've actually got the prime product that the consumers are after.
Okay, already countries including Germany, Italy, France, Sweden, Belgium and Austria have taken action to bland the clauses which say that the hotels can't sell at cheaper prices than what Expedia and or Booking.com are offering. What sort of impact has it had in those countries?
A positive impact is what we understand. And again, if you've got any sort of restrictive practice where you can't get a price out to a consumer that's better than an agent, you got to think twice about it. It doesn't pass a sniff test. And in those countries, from our understanding, the hoteliers are actually making a more profit, which profit relates to better services, which relates to more jobs, and that's the cycle. And Ross, what's been happening in Australia for the last 3 or 4 years, the impact of these commissions going offshore untaxed has been that, the biggest lever that our businesses have is labour. We hire a lot of people, very labour-intensive industry, and if your margins are getting compressed, guess what happens? You have to start laying people off. So I think that's where the Labor Party has sort of looked at this and said, if we get these settings right, it's probably a good thing for this industry because they're a big employer and it's a job.
Final one to you also is when you sit there and contemplate this, you sit there and realise that it's a situation where the ACCC is investigated. We know that Kate Carnell, the Australian Small Business and Family Ombudsman, said that she's had multiple complaints from small businesses about the conduct of these online travel agents. It's clear they have significant power. Is it possible if they take away the business from an individual hotel or a small business or a motel, whatever it might be, could they put that particular business out of business?
They can, Ross, and you know what it's called? They have a practice in their contract. In fact, it's called darkening. And darkening means you go from page 1 to page 30, and in their contracts they stipulate, they say, if you want to be undarkened, give us more money, and we'll get you back on page 1. So it's sounds to me a lot like extortion. We're going to darken you until you play by the rules that we've set, and if you don't, you're going to sit there on the very last page and we'll make sure that no one ever books you. And I think this conduct is, verges on misuse of market power, which is a piece of legislation that came in, I think, 2017. And I think that's what Rod Sims is having a good hard look at.
Tell you what's really interesting stuff, darkening. There's an expression that nobody's ever heard before until right now. Richard Munro is the Chief Executive of Accommodation Association of Australia. And Richard, I appreciate your time.
Nice to talk to you, Ross. Thanks for the opportunity.
Luxury Escapes brings you the world's best holidays at unbeatable prices. Luxury Escapes works with the world's most loved brands in travel so that you can experience the best new hotels, the best tours and cruises with flexible bookings. And when you travel with Luxury Escapes, every package comes with VIP extras, giving you 5-star treatment. Great deals, amazing places. Find your next holiday at luxuryescapes.com.